for our clients. This is a sad day for the Muthana family and for the sanctity of the United States citizenship in general. It is, of course, a case reminiscent to a similar case here in the UK, that of Shamima Begum, who was stripped of her citizenship after travelling to Syria to join IS. Let's discuss all this with Alka Pradhan, who is a human rights counsel at the Guantanamo Bay Military Commission. She's a lawyer for one of the 9/11 defendants as well. Thank you very much for being with us. The Trump administration argued that she was never, in fact, a US citizen because her father was a Yemeni diplomat.
Yeah, and that's just factually incorrect. It's just a false argument. And we're talking about, 14th Amendment constitutional birthright citizenship. This is not naturalized citizenship. The fact is that her father, who did, in fact, at one point have diplomatic immunity, that immunity was nullified before she was born. So that automatically makes her a citizen by birth. You can't really, the old saying goes, you're entitled to your own opinions, you're not entitled to your own facts. And neither the Trump administration nor the Obama administration before it are entitled to their own facts on this.
Yeah, the British government took a similar viewpoint, to be honest, and they said that Shamima Begum, when they were talking about her case, they said it is possible to strip people of their citizenship if they have another nationality to fall back on. I was looking at the figures today. There are 40,000 jihadists who went to Syria to join IS between 2014 and 2019. 10 to 20,000 of them, foreign fighters, have survived. So this is a case, isn't it, and a ruling that really applies to a lot of countries because there is no solution over what to do with them.
Well, I think there's a very clear-cut legal solution, and the answer is if they are a citizen of a country, that country is responsible for them. This idea that if a citizen is radicalized or commits crimes or the natural extension of that expresses views that are not in the interest of the state, we can then refuse responsibility for them or wash our hands of them. It's so incredibly dangerous. There's no stopping point once you go down that road. And I just want to point out that these cases are really coming up only against one particular group of people. We're not seeing white nationalists, white supremacists abroad being stripped of their citizenships. It's really just Muslims, people of color, for whom this is happening, which sends a very, very dangerous signal
But if white supremacists went abroad to fight, they would be banned from coming back as well, wouldn't they? I mean, it just so happens that it is Muslims that went to Syria.
Well, I'd be very interested in hearing, for example, at the moment right now, we're prosecuting people who participated in the January 6th insurrection, many of whom were white supremacists and member of white supremacist groups. Now, you're telling me that there are no Americans abroad who subscribe to that ideology, who've been vocal about it, and they've not been stripped of their citizenship, because I guarantee you'd hear about it.
Just today, the Oath Keepers militia, Stuart Rhodes, the founder of that group, and 10 alleged members of the group, they've just been charged with seditious conspiracy, which is about the most serious crime you can be charged with. But they are in the country.
Right. And that proves my point exactly, that it undermines our justice systems to say, look, we can try white people for these crimes, but we can't even try these people of color. We can't even grant them that citizenship that they are entitled to, bring them home and trust our justice system to handle it. We can only deal with them if they're of certain religions or races.
Brian, you're shaking your head, but it ultimately comes down to whether governments decide that it's more dangerous to keep their nationals out of the country, former nationals, or whether to bring them back and prosecute them. You think
they're dangerous here? I mean, they received a specific training in Syria, Afghanistan, or any of those countries where there's conflict. Why should we allow them to come back and use that training to hurt Americans? We're going to prosecute those people who were involved in January 6th. And God willing, we're going to throw the book at them. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure if you ask the Americans, especially this one here, if we should throw them out of the country, I say yes. If you want to take arms against this country, the rule shouldn't apply to you. You should be thrown out, whether it's to fight some jihad in the Middle East or whether it's to fight, the U.S. Capitol. We have to stand for something, and to let these people who are trained to come in and do long-term damage and manipulate our laws. That's not how you keep order. That's how you create more chaos.
Jess, I'll bring you in on this in a second. I just want to go back to Alka because you were shaking your head, Alka. But let me just put this to you: there were 400 Britons that returned from from the Syrian battle space to the UK, and they have presented very few security challenges. But MI5, MI6 say that those people who came back were those who went out in the early years and then came back because they were disenchanted with what went on. Those that have stayed, they see as a much greater security threat.
Well, first of all, it's funnily enough, in a traditional war, you have to look at the facts of the case. This woman would have been considered a non-combatant, or at worst a civilian participating in hostilities. And, to the gentleman who said we should throw the book at them, the point is exactly that these are citizens of the United States who have both the ability to be prosecuted before U.S. courts and the rights and privileges under the due process clause of the Constitution. And that is exactly what this woman is entitled to as well. Bring her back. The federal government has the ability to prosecute her. But, when we're talking about threat scenarios, the idea that a 27-year-old woman who has actually, we don't have information that she has been trained. We have information that she went there, that she had a child, and that innocent child now is being condemned to being forced, ironically, to stay in a situation that we consider to be extreme is, I think not just an overstatement of the threat, but really in the long term undermines our own national security.
Tell you what's interesting, President Putin takes a very different view on this. He has taken back a lot of the nationals that went from the North Caucasus region. He made a clear statement that children were not responsible for what their parents did and that Russia could not leave them behind in the war zone. Where do you stand on this, Jess?
Well, as I understand it, this woman was radicalized and recruited while she was on American soil. She is an American citizen, and she is a problem for the American legal system, and she should face justice in America. And it's concerning to hear Brian's, I guess, lack of confidence in the American justice system.
But Brian's not alone. Public opinion is very firmly on Brian's side.
But we have a justice system and rights in place for this very reason. She should face justice from the country of which she's a citizen of. OK, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for that. Alka Pradhan, lovely of you to join the programme. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, something very